So we have a great big function that does everything under the sun. Look at how long this rascal is. Holy smokes. That's way too much for one function to do. It makes it really hard to read this file and figure out what's going on. You have to actually pretty much read every line of code to tell what's going on. Nice thing about making lots of very small functions is it kind of becomes self-documenting, assuming you give your function sensible names. What's this function doing? Well, it's handling the submit. Okay, what else does it do? Well, you have to actually read the code to figure out. But if inside that code, it's just like calling something that says render a list, well, then I guess it's rendering a list. How exactly that list works, if we really want to know that, we'll go look at render list. But the main thing we want to know is when it's submitted, it renders a dang list. If we want to know how the list is built, we can go read the code for that function. And then we'll see, it renders a number of list items. How are those rendered? We'll go look at that. But it becomes a lot clearer how the whole thing works, and it becomes a lot easier to troubleshoot because you can figure out which part has the problem, and it's a lot easier to go straight to a function definition than it is to just look for a random line of code. So we're going to get in those habits. So let's see what we can do. First, we said we'll extract renderColor. And renderColor is going to create that div. The div with the background color in the person's favorite color. So here we are making the div, setting the background color, setting the width and height, and appending it to an item. So the appending to an item shouldn't happen inside renderColor, right? RenderColor is just going to build the div. So we want a function that builds the div. What information is it going to need from the outside in order to render that? What does that function need to know before it can render the div? Let me put it another way. What's going to be different from one call of that function to the next? The color, right? The color is going to change depending on what's in the form. So that's the information it needs from the outside. The responsibility of that function is just to render that div. It doesn't need to know anything about the form. It just needs to know what color to render. So I say we pass in the color as an argument. That seems appropriate to me. So let's see about that. Let's make a function called renderColor. And it'll take an argument called color. Doesn't matter where the color comes from. It could come from a form, or it could come from somewhere else. But the single responsibility of this function is to just create a div that is that color. Don't worry about how it fits into the larger picture at the beginning. Make like Mario and Luigi and break it down. Keep it simple and just do the one thing. So it's going to create a div, give it a height, give it a width, and set a background color of whatever color was passed in as the argument. And then we can see if that much works. We have the function now. Never mind the form. We're just writing a function that works. So let's see. And by the way, when you're working on this stuff, it's a good idea to always keep your developer tools open. Sometimes you run into problems, you can't figure out what's wrong, and if you had your developer tools open, you would see that there's actually a genuine error, and that would give you a pretty good clue where to look. So don't forget to open those up if you're struggling with something, because they might give you a big clue. Yeah?
One more comment, too, that I've seen, just like David's doing right now, as soon as you write just one extra piece of code, go ahead and test that in your browser.
Yeah.
Don't continue to write code and then test it at the very end, because then you don't know where the mistake is if there is a mistake.
That's right. So for the sake of the recording, what Dana said was basically test early and often. If you make a new function or just add some new piece of functionality, go ahead and test that right away, because you don't want to work for a half hour and find out you made a mistake a half hour ago. Because when the whole thing's broken later, you don't know when during that half hour the mistake was introduced. So yeah, test your code early and often. And so like right now, I'm not even gonna put renderColor inside my handle submit yet. I'm just gonna run it by itself to see if it basically works the way I thought it would. So here in my console, I'm in the global scope all the time here right now. So renderColor should already exist. Yep, it does. Sure, let's render color cornflower blue. Render color is not defined. Really? Does it not put it in the global scope? Did I refresh my page? I had not refreshed my page. That's problematic. What I do wrong, I'm getting back undefined. I wanted a div. Yes, sir. I'm not returning a value. I'm building a div, and then I'm not doing anything with it. I need to return that. So, return color div. Refresh. Render color, cornflower blue. I get back div style, background color, cornflower blue, width 6 rem, height 3 rem. Looks good to me. If I wanted to test it, to make sure that it'll actually go into the DOM, I could just like grab the body element. Document.query selector body, append child, render color, blue. There it is. So, it seems to work. So I've got the function that works. Now we can actually use that function inside our enormous handle submit function. I left all these lines in here for now. So color item is where that div actually goes. So instead of creating the div right here, I'm just going to call render color. Render color needs to know the color, and we already have the color saved to the variable favorite color. So now building my color item is considerably simpler. Building that list item doesn't need to know the gory details of how that div is rendered. Let's try it out. Seems to work the same way. Everybody else getting that warning too? Is it annoying you? That's more annoying at least some people. The specified value empty string does not conform to the required format. The format is hash RRGGBB, where RRGGBB are 2-digit hexadecimal numbers. That would be red, green, blue. That would be color. And when did it happen? When did we get the error? When we cleared the form. So, in fact, it says index.js, line 39, right? So if we weren't sure, let's see what's on line 39. Yep, form reset. So when you reset, it sets all the form values back to their defaults. Empty string or whatever. If there's actually a value hard-coded in the HTML, it'll reset it back to that value. And that's what it's complaining about. For an input of type color, empty string is not a valid color, and it really wants a real color. So maybe we need to put a default value in here. So it seems to be defaulting to black. If we just say value equals black, so give it a default other than empty string, which isn't a color. Oh, wait. It told me, though, it doesn't want a named color, does it? It wants hash 6 hex digits, right? So that would be all zeros, right? For black. 0 red value, 0 green value, 0 blue value. If you don't know hex colors, you can Google it. It's a common thing in CSS. 2 hexadecimal digits for each of RGB. 2 hex digits gives you 0 through 255. So let's try it again. Submit, and it doesn't complain anymore. So good, we got rid of that warning. And we built our color div in a separate function. So this is gradually getting a little more manageable. I can dig it. Now, since we've accomplished something, let's go ahead and commit. We add to take it from our working copy to our staging area. And we commit to then permanently add it to our repository. Extract renderColor function. Now, did we actually change the way this thing works? We didn't, did we? It works the same way it did before. So what we did was refactoring. Refactoring is changing the code without changing the behavior. Making it more readable, making it more maintainable, that sort of thing. It's a good thing to do sometimes. It's a lot easier if you have tests or something, but you know, we're not quite there. Questions about what we've done so far? Does that much make sense? That one's not too complicated. Do you understand why we don't grab the color from the form from inside renderColor? Instead, we pass it in as an argument? Because all that function is supposed to do is build that div with whatever color you ask for. Doesn't matter whether the color comes from. By writing it this way, it's more flexible. We don't want it coupled to the form. Handling the form is something else's responsibility. This thing just renders the color.